Hello and welcome to Fearless DIY Music. My name is Tristan Lass, and today I'd like to talk about studio workflow. No matter what size space that you're dealing with or the kind of conditions that you're working under, if you have the desire to set up a recording studio or do videography or most anything that involves recording, you need to make sure that you follow a few basic rules so that you can work effectively. I've battled with this for many, many years, especially with my analog studio. It used to be in this space, and this is not a large space. This is a 12 by 12 room in my basement. I had a full mixing board over here, and I had miles of wires and outboard equipment. And for the first few years that I was working down here, things were difficult. It was difficult for me to manage both my equipment, my routing, just the sheer volume of wires that I had in this tiny space. And that led me to converting over to digital gradually over the last couple years, which has made my workflow much better because I have much less gear to deal with. I'm just dealing with my, I've got an interface over here, and then I've got my computer over here, and it's a lot simpler to work with. I still do have some outboard gear, but I keep it all wired 24/7 and very, very easy to patch into. So I wrote down a few things that I'd like to talk about and touch upon to try to give people a little bit of advice when setting up a space or cleaning up their existing space. And I understand that a lot of people don't even have the luxury of a 12 by 12 room. A lot of people are just working from a small desk or from a laptop that gets moved around from place to place. Who knows? But whatever your situation is, there are a few basic rules to follow so that you don't become frustrated searching for things, wondering why things are not working the way that they should be, and all those kind of issues. And that leads me to my first point, which is organization. Everything should have its place. Even if you only have one microphone or two microphones, make sure that you know where those microphones are and that they're properly stored when not in use. And if you do keep them up 24/7 for use, make sure that the environment's not going to do things that are terrible to the microphone. Like if you have high humidity, or if for some reason there's cooking smells or any sort of smoke source around, you really want to keep your microphones away from things like that. And that applies to all other sorts of gear as well. Computers don't like, crap in the air getting into them. So you want to make sure that you keep all your stuff organized, neat and clean, and in its place so that the moment that you need a cable or the moment that you need to set up, a recording scenario, you're not hunting for a mic stand, you're not hunting for things. Because the moment that that takes hold, the wheels come off. That creative moment can fleet away from you, and you end up, frustrated. And being frustrated is not the way to start doing something that is artistic or creative or fun. It's just going to make you mad. And I'm speaking for myself. I lose my temper very quickly if I can't find what I need when I need it. So being organized is absolutely critical. Which brings me to the next thing, which should be fairly obvious to everyone: keeping things clean. If you have a thick layer of dust on your equipment, if things are just jumbled in piles and there's actual physical dirt on things, that is not good for equipment of any kind, be it guitars, pedals, amplifiers, digital equipment, any of it. You want to keep your stuff clean, do a little dust every once in a while, and just make sure that stuff isn't, being compromised. Because when dirt gets into things, it causes them to break. And there's just no question that that is a reality. So it's in everybody's best interest to keep their stuff clean. One of the things that I've wrestled with for many, many years is figuring out a workflow where I can kind of have everything on all the time. Maybe not literally on, but just a couple buttons to push, and then boom, ready to work. Power strips are great for this. If you have a fairly large array of equipment, having all of it on a power strip that you can just simply hit and then have everything turn on makes life a lot easier. It may seem like a little thing and not that big of a deal, but when you have, like, 5 or 6 different pieces of equipment that need to be on and you can just hit one button to turn them on, it makes a huge difference. And that's kind of the setup I have here. I have a power strip underneath my second monitor so that I have all of my outboard gear and everything that I need plugged into it, so with a flick of a switch, everything turns on and I'm ready to go. That can apply to, any setup, as simple as a laptop and an interface. Thankfully, a lot of things now are powered off of the computer so that when you turn your computer on, it's going to be on already anyway. And then that leads me to point number 4, which is simplicity. Keep your signal chain as clean as possible. A lot of people on the interwebs who have boutique equipment, large spaces, and giant racks of things all around them, and it looks really impressive. It's like, oh my goodness, look at all that outboard gear. Look at all this stuff. It must make everything sound so much better. That may be the case if you have an unlimited budget, an unlimited space, and unlimited time. But for most of us, keeping things simple, keeping your signal chain down to the bare basics of the things that you actually need to sound good or look good or whatever it is, the fewer things in that signal chain, the fewer things to go wrong, the fewer problems to chase down. All of a sudden you've got no signal and you're like, what happened? What happened? If you have a bunch of stuff jumbled up and plugged in together with a lot of different connectors and a lot of different things that aren't organized or clean, you could go nuts trying to find that problem. So along with the always on, I try to keep all of my wiring and all of my signal to the bare minimum of what I actually need at the moment. Of course, you may want to use an outboard compressor, an outboard preamp. I know that I do over here in my little rack. But those are just 2 things, and they can always be wired, and they can be on a power strip of their own, which they are, so that when I flick that switch, both are powered up, wired together, and ready for me just to plug a microphone directly into. And then aesthetics. It may seem like a silly thing, but you should make your space into a space that you actually enjoy being in. It should be visually appealing to yourself. It should look good to others. My studio, it's a little bit of a hodgepodge. I don't have a lot of space, and I do have a lot of guitars, and a lot of just gear in general. But I kind of like the hominess of my studio. It is, put together in a very DIY manner. I don't have super expensive, sound baffling or anything like that. I do have some sound treatment on the ceiling in here. I've got a little bit back along in between the guitars. Not a whole lot. This room is a semi-live room. It's not completely dead, but it's not completely live either. But I like the way it looks. I've sprinkled a little bit of my own artwork around. I do have, a few little rat's nests of, fun stuff from, my past that I keep around, my little mementos and things. But it makes the space welcoming to me. I'm not necessarily trying to impress anybody or have somebody walk into this space and go, oh my goodness, that's a pro studio. This studio works great. I've recorded here a ton and I've gotten great results. And I want it to be a place that I want to walk into and feel like I'm at home and that I'm at ease and that is inviting. You want to go into your space. So to recap, you want to keep things organized, clean, try to keep things always on if you can, as much as you can, or with just a few flicks of a switch, you're ready to go. You want to keep it simple, and you want it to be something that looks good to yourself, and if you happen to be working with other people. Anyway, if you enjoyed this video, please hit the subscribe button. And I look forward to bringing more videos from here in the studio. I'm going to probably be shooting a video soon about, what I have in here and how I use it. Do a little studio tour. And then I'm planning on starting an album project soon, and we'll probably be down here a lot more often. I shoot most of my videos out in the shop, and this is my first one here in the studio, and I hope you enjoyed it. All right, as always, take care, and we'll see you next time.